guys? How you doing? YouTube, hello. Twitch, good to see all of you. Hello. Hi. It's me, Eric Pullman, coming at you live again, once again, to hit you with some audiobook creation. I know you guys thought I couldn't be back at it doing it once more, but you were sadly mistaken. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to let you down, but it is what it is. And we are done with one audiobook. The recording of one audiobook. We are done with that one. So, thankfully, that one is sort of behind us, but we still have another one to record as well. I'm feeling rather performative today, so I may do that today as well. It's called Baccarat. Excuse me. Here we go. All right, can you see this? You cannot. Unfortunately. Teleprompter. Baccarat. Now, I have the first 15 minutes, I believe, due for two other projects. Find projects. Okay, hold up. acx.com. Yeah, so I have two 15-minute checkpoints due on the 25th of September, which is in 4 days. So, I believe I'm going to dedicate 2 days this week strictly to each of those books, creating that 15-minute checkpoint, which will give me this weekend to totally complete the other two books, ideally. So, I wanted to, while in the state, record as much as possible. But, as it happens, we're pretty late in the day, so we'll eat some food first, and then we'll move on. Okie dokie. Artichoke. Let's just do some quick laughs really quick. Let's react to some content. Let's see. OS screen capture. Application tracker. I'm gonna turn that on. After I close out of I'll just close it out of the thing I want to open. All right. Brave browser. Okay. Here we go. Let's react to some of this guy's content. I don't know. It's fairly controversial, but I figure we should probably talk about this guy before he gets any bigger, because I think that he's just he's absolutely out of control, asinine. I mean, who does he think he is? The Labdominal Snowman? Who even is that? Even has his own website, labdominals.com. Who does this guy think he is? Who does this guy think? He has pronouns. His pronouns is E. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? All right, so this is me. I'm joking, YouTube. This is me. I'm not bullying anybody. This is me. The Labdominal Snowman. That's me. That is myself. Oh, can I see members only? Oh, I can't. 99 cents per month. Wow. Wow, chat. Wow. Look at this guy. Who does he think he is? Penguin Zero? I think I'm good on that, but maybe if Turkey Tom's online.
Used to talk about
Melted Leafy. Can I get some Melted Leafies in chat, please? This is it used to be Leafy Clone. Now it's Melted Leafy.
RIPs in chat?
I'm like wax. Okay, they melted me down a little bit. They melted me down.
Turkey Tom banned me in chat. I can no longer talk in chat.
And not even make it funny.
I don't even know what I said, but he banned me in chat.
If you're going to call me irrelevant, I'm going to cut you right to the core. I'm going to let you know nobody's going to know you in 10 years or less.
He banned me.
You're still going to...
Camera angle looking like a Romanian Mr.
How do I know he banned me? Check this
True.
out. I can't even send super chats.
You know who I am. 2012, 2024, and you're going to know me in 2036. In 24 years, you're still going to know me unless God gives me cancer. Shout out Boogie. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is that you don't matter. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Froggy. I feel like he's just taking this all way too seriously. Like, literally none of this matters. I made a very passive comment. I made a very, very passive comment. It was really nothing. I don't really get why he's so upset. It doesn't really make sense to me. Here's the last thing I have to say. If I streamed or did some commentary and came across a video where Tom was brought up, I wouldn't have paused and interjected that I think he's not very original or talented and just grifts.
I don't even remember.
Why? Because we had a positive report. What does this even mean, positive rapport? What does this even mean?
You know what that means,
Because I had you on stream one time where we have a positive rapport. We're like buddies. We're allies now. Can I not say factually that you're irrelevant? Like, that's not how things work. Ironically, that would be, if I was like this, like how he wants me to be, I would be a fence sitter. I would be dishonest. I would be, a little weasel. But the fact that
I love Tom, but he banned me from chat, so I don't think I can sit in there too long. Yeah, this is something that I was curious about, too.
Did Nikocado Avocado fool us all with his shocking transformation? After gaining over 400 pounds and skyrocketing to fame through his mukbang videos, he vanished from YouTube for nearly a year. When he returned on September 7th, 2024, he revealed an astonishing 250 pounds weight loss.
Having lost 250 pounds off of my body.
Fans are stunned, especially since there's...
Yeah, that's the thing that I noticed too. Like, there's no loose skin anywhere on his neck, anywhere on his arms. People that lose this amount of weight usually have some sort of after effect of it. The only thing that I can think of is this one example where somebody just didn't eat at all, and their body subsisted on their fat deposits, their adipocytes, and they didn't have loose tissue. But I don't think that's ever been replicated, so I don't know.
There's hardly any loose skin on his body. How could he achieve such a dramatic transformation without the usual loose skin? Did he fool us into thinking his weight gain was real? Or is this all part of a master plan for even more fame and fortune? Did Nikocado Avocado fool us all with his shocking
You're not going to answer it? Jacked123? You're not going to answer that question? You posed it. Am I supposed to answer this question? I don't get it. I don't get that. Keep it going. Danny? Do I follow this person? I do not subscribe. Why was this suggested to me? There's 380 subscribers. 2,000 videos? Dude, 2,000 videos? That's insane. This username is absolutely ridiculous. 2,000 videos from 2020. So in 4 years, he made 2,000 videos. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. All right. What is it?
Fuck this shit.
All right. I'm not going to play that. Autism. The link between Sonic and autism. Really? Is there a link, Odysseus? I wonder. All right, let me just make sure that I don't have any chats. I do not. All right, cool. All right, what's the link between Sonic and autism?
ASD and Sonic the Hedgehog. From what I've seen on the internet, there is a clear trend between the two. From content to memes to people just flat out asking, what is it with autistic people and Sonic? And this piqued my curiosity. So I decided to do some research in order to truly explain the link between Sonic the Hedgehog and autism spectrum disorder. For this video, I decided to split my findings into 3 different topics. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I should probably explain what autism exactly is first. Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, is a neurological disorder affecting the way a person socializes, behaves, and learns. The exact cause of autism is still unknown. However, scientists have found that it's typically genetic and can run in families. ASD can vary in type and severity in different people, hence why it's referred to as a spectrum disorder. The most highlighted symptoms usually include difficulty reading social cues, making little to no eye contact, talking on about a passionate subject despite other parties not being interested, and being more sensitive to sensory input, such as sight, sound, and taste. There are lots more symptoms that can vary from person to person, and can cause trouble for people with ASD to make friends or socialize, and if their disorder is severe, they may at times not be able to communicate at all. It's pretty common for someone to be diagnosed with ASD. According to the CDC, it affects approximately 1 in 36 people in the United States, and 1 in 100 worldwide. Autism is a common neurological disorder that affects one's form of communication as well as their senses. People with autism are often hard to communicate with, and the way to do so properly depends greatly on the severity of their disorder. However, it's still possible for an autistic person to excel at some activities most would find challenging. And that brings...
I don't know. I feel like this one is overprescribed. I think this one's overprescribed. I think a lot of people assume that they're autistic because they don't fit in with society, which is inherently going to be different than yourself and going to be something you can't fit into completely. No one person fits completely into society. So everybody looking at society and fitting in and making eye contact and making conversation, they have this slight amount of deviation in their mind from what they're saying to what they would actually want to mean. It's not to say that they're definitively not autistic, but I feel like this is something that people look at and see and hear and see it in themselves. I don't know.
Pretty much sums up the basics. Now that that's out of the way, it's time to get into the fun stuff. Sonic the Hedgehog. He and his friends need no introduction. Introduced in 1991, the series would go on to take the world by storm, spawning a long-running comics line, 7 television series, a multitude of attractions around the world, and even 3 blockbuster movies. Sonic is everywhere, and his bright blue color gives him away pretty easily. Which brings me to my first topic, sensory appeal. Think to yourself, what is it that makes the Sonic series so iconic? Is it his super speed and his love for freedom? Or what about the huge and colorful beloved cast of characters? Or maybe it's the recognizable and catchy music that comes with every game? Well, what about all of those things? Because of autistic people's higher sensitivity to senses, they're in turn more sensitive to certain stimuli, making them more fixated on certain details or features. One of the most common findings in my research, more specifically when I googled the question up front, were the colors of the characters. Sonic has a very colorful cast. Almost every character has a certain color assigned to them, typically reflecting their traits. Let's take a look at the main crew, for example. Sonic's blue, representing his love for freedom and justice. Tails is bright orange, his companionship and determination. Knuckles is red, his strength and anger. Amy's pink, her femininity and love. And Shadow's black, his dark past and inner pain. Some individuals with ASD may have trouble predicting the complex world around them. As they get familiar with characters such as those in Sonic the Hedgehog, they are able to easily read their cartoony facial features, and find not just predictability, but relatability as well, in their character design alone. And through this, they may find solace. You may find some individuals choosing their favorite character over other ones with their color being a major factor as to why. And this can even branch beyond ASD. Someone may be comfortable with more overstimulating neon colors, like red, so they may be more intrigued by characters like Knuckles or Dr. Eggman, while those more comfortable with more calm colors, like purple, may find the most consolation in SDO or Big. Sonic's huge cast of characters, each with their own identifiable color and personality, can provide comfort and stimulation to people with ASD. This comfort has a possibility to easily lead someone with ASD into an introduction with the Sonic games. However, it can go beyond just the design of the characters. Sonic is known for the fact that each game has a quality soundtrack. Almost each game. Along with visual stimuli, people diagnosed with ASD can also be more sensitive to auditory stimuli, in turn allowing them to become more easily mesmerized in musical score. This can make listening to music feel more soothing and satisfying. That is, if it isn't too loud. They are also sensitive to the volume. Sonic's high-quality soundtrack, as a result, can easily draw in players with ASD. Iconic songs like City Escape, Sonic Heroes, and Live and Learn, as well as instrumental pieces, like Emerald Coast, Kingdom Valley, and Studiopolis, can play a significant part in enhancing the gameplay experience of someone with ASD. The memorable melodies, comforting rhythm, and nonverbal expression of these songs can help people with ASD escape from an overstimulating environment, in or outside of gameplay. Speaking of the gameplay, that too can add sensory appeal to the Sonic games. If you have a brainstem, you know that Sonic gameplay is often fast-paced and speedy. This super fast gameplay can be very rewarding to certain autistic individuals. While some may find it too fast and too stimulating, others may find it perfect. Other individuals with ASD may be more stimulated mainly by the aesthetic or the visuals of the more stylistic games, like Sonic Rush, Colors, or Generations. The Sonic series of video games has a load of potential in terms of sensory appeal for autistic individuals. The colorful and cartoony design of its characters, its high standards for music, and speedy but stylistic gameplay can all cater to people with ASD really easily. The majority of those diagnosed with ASD will find a soothing and stable experience in not just the games, but other forms of Sonic-related media as well, and likely get them hooked. Which brings me to my next topic. Special interests. When talking about autism, you may have heard the phrase special interests pop up here and there. These refer to activities or objects that people develop a strong fondness for. For people with autism, these quote-unquote special interests can develop very easily. For a combination of neurological reasons, individuals with autism can become so hyperfixated on certain ideas or topics that it, at times, may become harder for them to explore anything else. Whether it's a coping mechanism, a pathway for communication, or just something they're emotionally attached to, autistic people forming special interests is very common, and at times, it may be all we talk about. This is less of a reason as to why autistic people tend to be infatuated with Sonic, and more of a reason as to why it's so highlighted. If an autistic person has a special interest in something, they tend to show it, often. The significant amount of autistic individuals within the Sonic community, mixed with a desire to share their interests with others inside that community, can lead to the trend becoming more noticeable. Sonic games have a lot to talk about in terms of history, story, and game design.
Reddit. Just Reddit. Reddit.
When an autistic person has a special interest, they tend to pour hours into exposing themselves to it, and learning more. This provides a lot of room for communication for autistic individuals within the Sonic community, something that typically may be a challenge for them outside of it. Which brings me to my third and final topic. Escape. It's no secret that video games can provide a source of escape for many players, transporting them to a whole new world that isn't affected by issues that they may be encountering in their real one. Sonic is no different. With the social disadvantage that ASD causes, it's possible for some who are diagnosed to feel unwanted or like an outcast. With its symptoms, it most of the time becomes a challenge for those with ASD to make friends and engage with peers. As I said before, it's hard for them to read social cues, make eye contact, or know when to stop talking. Not only this, but the overstimulation of someone with ASD may influence their social experiences in a negative way. As a result, autistic people may turn to the aforementioned special interests in order to find comfort or escape, one of which may include video games. Video games provide a sense of control and predictability. When playing a video game, the player and the player alone is in control of the action. And if you're replaying a game, surprises are going to be less likely. When making a mistake in a video game, you're granted practically an infinite amount of opportunities to try and try again, lowering the pressure of failing a lot, especially for those with ASD. The rules are clear and simple. If you mess up, it's not the end of the world. If there's something you don't understand, you'd usually read the instructions or watch the tutorial again. And this goes beyond Sonic the Hedgehog. Super Mario, Rocket League, Fortnite, Persona, whatever it is, video games offer a virtual but controlled environment. As a result, those with ASD may find video games a place of safety, and, as I mentioned earlier, offers them a community of like-minded individuals. Sonic isn't the only gaming franchise that works well for autistic people. Video games as a whole easily attract those with ASD because of their defined rules, lack of pressure, and a sense of control and belonging. Social interaction is important, don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is that those with ASD who just feel overwhelmed with communication in their surroundings will likely take a break and immerse themselves in video games from time to time, and find a comforting escape. Video games like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Nice. So, if you wanted to have a solid test for autism, have them sit in a waiting room for a bit, have a little video game out, and if they want to, have an array of video games, and maybe Sonic is one of the options. Honestly, Sonic never gripped me. Even as a child, I got one Sonic game for like the PS2, and it never really gripped me. Never really liked it. I don't know why. I think it was a classic game, and that game built upon the classic nature of that game. But since I wasn't privy to that classic, it almost felt like watching episode 2 without ever watching the pilot. So, yeah. Sonic never gripped me, and I don't really play video games that much anymore. I said that much. I didn't mean to say that much. I really don't play video games anymore. I really don't. Yeah.
And that is my explanation of the link between Sonic and autism. Remember, Sonic is loved by millions around the world, not just those with ASD. Like I said, his noticeable appeal to those with ASD made me curious, and I think it really shows just how quality and versatile of a series Sonic is. When it wants to be. Honestly, this one was pretty hard to make, as the intricacies of autism are still very complex. I found it challenging to put it all into words that make the video more than 7 minutes, but here we are. I did it. Hooray. I've also read that a certain individual you might know helped recognize the large number of autistic Sonic fans. I didn't want to get into that because I just want him gone from the Sonic history book. Look, if you know, you know. That's all I'll say. If you enjoyed what you saw, feel free to like or subscribe. If you didn't, comment and tell me what you changed. Either way, it'd be fantastic.
You know exactly what he means. He means Sonichu.
In high school, Christian Weston Chandler took a visual design class and was tasked to create an album cover. His love of Sonic the Hedgehog, who's known for his cool, chill music, led Chris to want to put Sonic on his album. Chris's teacher told him he was not allowed to use a copyrighted character in his art, so Chris returned to the drawing board, dejected. Then, he combined Sonic the Hedgehog with Pikachu to create Sonichu, the electric hedgehog Pokemon.
Nice.
Chris would let the idea of Sonichu cultivate in his mind for 4 years until he wrote the first issue of Sonichu the comic, which he called Issue 0. On the iconic cover of Issue 0, Chris has front and center the copyright info and his name, even though the comic isn't officially copyrighted. Chris even signed the comic in the shadow of his own character. This first issue was drawn on November 24th, 2004. The first weird thing to note is Sonichu calls Chris Father, which is just a little bit creepy. On the next page, we see Chris start to number the pages, and he repeats that it is copyrighted. Just to note, there's a typo in the very first sentence of the comic book. Our story begins in an open field 5 miles from the city of Station Square. Keep in mind that this was written and drawn by a 20-year-old. So the story starts from the perspective of a Pikachu 5 miles away from a battle Sonic the Hedgehog is fighting. The comic does nothing to introduce what a Pikachu is or who Sonic is, so it expects the reader to have prior knowledge of both Pokemon and Sonic. Sonic is fighting the perfect Chaos Monster, and since I have not played Sonic, I have no idea what that is. Chris decides to pop in and tell the reader that he is the creator of Sonichu and the writer of the comic, immediately breaking the fourth wall for no foreseeable reason. This Pikachu art is also, I mean, Chris's art isn't good, no one would call it good, but I'm so used to looking at him draw his own characters that there's something just so disturbing about seeing Pikachu really drawn like this. I don't like it.
It's really disturbing.
So on the first page, we have to deal with the pre-established lore of Pokemon, Sonic, the existence of Chris within the comic, and the comic's use of the creator talking directly with the audience, which is obviously all very confusing. On the next page, we get a meanwhile, and we see Sonic powering up with the Chaos Emeralds to fight the monster. The ordering of the panels is very confusing, but it seems to be cutting back and forth between Sonic powering up to face the monster and Pikachu running toward the city. On the third page, we see whatever this is. I think Pikachu is looking at Sonic fighting the monster, but it really just looked like he's staring into the monster's mouth. Then this happens, and then Sonic gives Pikachu a little kiss. No, he is slammed into Pikachu by the monster, and they produce rainbow energy. Then, in the middle of the page, it flashes to 15 miles away. That's exactly 15 miles. It couldn't have just been by the ocean, or at a cottage. No, it's exactly 15 miles away, and there is a girl Raichu. And the comic labels her specifically as a girl, and she's hit with the rainbow energy. We then see the Raichu and Pikachu slowly turn into what eventually will be called Rosechu and Sonichu respectively. The text tells us that this is at the cottage, but because we haven't been introduced to the cottage yet, that isn't very helpful. This girl comes out, concerned about the blast of light, and she sees that her Raichu has transformed. The trainer comments that her Raichu, in her new form, looks as beautiful as a rose, and Rosechu responds that her new name should be Zap Bud. I have no idea why it says that, because her name ends up being Rosechu. Then, Sonichu wakes...
Sounds like a cheat for The Sims 2. Zapbud.
Up in his new form and sees the perfect chaos monster still causing havoc, so he runs super fast towards the beast. Then the comic gives us another meanwhile, even though it's still saying with the same characters in the same location. Sonichu uses his new electric attack to use thunder on the creature, but misses.
The thing is, like, so it's fucking digging deep into this, telling you about everything that's wrong with Sonichu.
Even though the art shows it hitting the monster's head directly. Sonichu can fly for some reason, even though neither Sonic nor Pikachu possess the ability to fly. I think Super Sonic can fly, but you can usually tell that Sonic is in Supersonic form because he's yellow, but since Sonichu is always yellow, I really have no idea what's going on. So Sonic flies in and creates a whirlwind or something, and then people are cheering his name. Then Sonichu looks over the sunset and thinks to himself that he's gained super speed and can talk now. The chapter ends with Sonichu naming himself Sonichu, and Chris popping up to tell us that this Sonichu will use his powers to stop evil. Then, instead of ending the issue, Chris goes right on ahead with a roll call of all the upcoming characters that haven't even been introduced. Keep in mind that this issue so far has been 7 pages. So first, Chris tells us that the comic is titled Sonichu, and by that, we man the saga of the electric hedgehog Pokemon. Also, he always goes to the effort to make the E in Pokemon lowercase, but he doesn't put the accent over it. Technically, it's pronounced Pokemon, but since I've never said it that way, I'm not gonna start now. So the story is set in the city of Quickville, not Station Square or wherever that last battle was. Quick are Chris's initials, CWC, Christian Weston.
The accent mark actually kind of makes no sense. Because, like, this is a Japanese game. Why put an accent U over that as if it's, like, French? What is that? Obviously, it stands for Pocket Monsters, but, like, why did you abbreviate it with an accent UE?
Chandler. Also, Sonic's powers are to go very fast, so it's a great coincidence that his name also spells out quick. That's the kind of ridiculous thing that I love about the story of Chris Chan. Chris is also the mayor of Quickville. Then we get the rundown on Sonichu, the
Oh no. This is Sonichu, the electric hedgehog Pokemon and main character. Age 16 years. An average among cool places to chill at. I am the mayor. He's like 20 when he's writing this, but this guy's 16. Do you think that Chris is like 16 in his mind? Like, do you think he's just sort of locked at that age? Mostly outdoor activities. Other facts. He enjoys the scenery around him. His favorite colors are yellow and blue. He enjoys popular music, and he loves Rose Chew. Wow.
Electric hedgehog Pokemon. If you're wondering why he keeps saying that, each Pokemon has a description associated with it, like Pikachu is the electric mouse Pokemon, Charizard is the flame Pokemon, Bulbasaur is the seed Pokemon. So Chris took electric mouse and changed it to electric hedgehog, because Sonichu is a hedgehog. Also, he didn't use the lowercase e here in Pokemon, so I guess so much for that. Sonichu is 16 years old, is very active, which Chris isn't, and he's in love with Rosechew, despite the two of them not having met yet in the story. Then there's this weird smiley face at the bottom of the screen, I don't know what that's about.
Honestly, that's a pretty good smiley face. I'd say that, like, that is probably the best drawing that he's had so far. That smiley face. Every other drawing is, like, Uncanny Valley, and, like, something that you would draw in if you were intentionally trying to make bad art. But this is like, that's a good smiley. If I made that, I would be pretty proud of it. So, I don't know.
Then we have Rosechew, who Chris said
15. 15. Chris. Rosechew is a spunky and very beautiful girl. Electronic hedgehog Pokemon. Age 15. 15 years still time for you. Hobbies: frolicking through the fields, shopping at the mall, and cooking. Her original trainer is caring girl Kel.
as is spunky. She's a girl electric hedgehog Pokemon, as if girl is its own species. Well, she's 15, likes frolicking through fields, cooking, and going to the mall. If you've ever wondered why people are dubious if Chris actually knows enough about women to be transgender, then that should tell you why. Her nickname is Rosie, and her favorite flower is the Zapbud. Then we meet Kel, Rosie's Pokemon trainer, and Nate Cirque, the son of Giovanni. Yes, his name is Christian spelled backwards, which is obviously super uncreative.
That is, I understand the literary technique of doing something backwards, and it's supposed to be like, oh, how fun! Like, look at that, it's the name backwards. It was right there. Stanley Yelnats is the same name backwards. It was there the whole time. You just didn't see it. So, no, I understand the literary technique. I just never find it that I never found it that creative, but it always is something that kind of makes sense. Something that you can at least pronounce. This is ridiculous. Night Cirque? Is that how you say that? Night Cirque? Night Cirque. Wow.
So continuing. Now we get this Shadow the Hedgehog ripoff. It's Black Sonichu, or Blatchu, and he's...
Oh, hold up. Whoa. This is a little too much. Black Sonichu. Really? A.K.A. Blashu. He's Sonichu's evil twin. What's up with that, Chris? Who's in Paris? Sonichu's evil twin. He was created in Giovanni's lab from Sonichu's DNA with accidental dose of cherry cola. I mean, to be honest, he does look like he got an accidental dose of cherry cola. He really looks like it. I mean, this thing is giving cherry cola all over it. I just think this is insensitive, Chris. I don't think we could go on. This is ridiculous. But you know what? I'm going to leave this up while I go throw this away and wash my hands and come back with some hydration. Do a little commercial break. Ooh, that's what I should do. I should do commercial breaks on here. That would be fun. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. This right here is the one, the man, the myth, the legend, the hydration. Check it out. Ghost Hydration, ladies and gentlemen. Ghost Hydration with the cherry limeade flavor. This stuff is absolutely delightful. Cherry limeade hydration, 24 in a pack. These things are surprisingly inefficient. Not inefficient. Inexpensive. They're very efficient. Very, very good. So I'm going to take one of these. And I think we're going to switch gears. We're not going to watch this. I know. You guys want to see this whole 5-hour thing? I get it. Actually, maybe we'll play.
Mr. Beast is now facing a war on multiple fronts. On one hand, it seemed like the commentary channels and Dogpack 404 talking about him were dying down a little bit. The controversy was kind of going under the rug, or at the very least, it wasn't being talked about as much.
I know. I gotta join the Tom Dark channel. Listen, unban me from your chat, and maybe I might.
A mainstream scale. And mainstream media articles about his Amazon Prime series Beast Games had similarly begun to fade from the spotlight. But now he and Amazon have a massive lawsuit on their hands. So, yeah, I guess today we're going to be learning how Mr. Beast became Mr. Beast's own worst nightmare. Haha. See what I did there? Shout out to Chris, but I love Sony. On September 17th, 2024, journalists obtained a copy of a legal complaint against Mr. Beast and Amazon, wherein 5 unnamed contestants filed a class action lawsuit in Los Angeles court, claiming they weren't paid enough for their time on Beast Games and that they were deprived of proper medical care, food, and sleep. Now, this kind of claim seems very consistent with prior articles where contestants made the same claims, like the one from the New York Times, which we went over in my video from a bit ago. There were contestants saying that they weren't given enough food, or they weren't given food at all. There were contestants saying that they weren't given their medications when they were supposed to receive them. Female contestants saying they weren't given female products, like, you know, because girls bleed or whatever. And now in this new lawsuit, there are a lot of those same claims, from sexual harassment to chronic mistreatment, and they even cite an employee handbook that we've also read on this channel. Now, I have a copy of the lawsuit here, and I thought rather than just summarize the articles about it, it would be interesting for us to actually read the lawsuit itself and see what we can learn. Now, it is 50 pages long, so you're gonna have to bear with me here, but there is a lot of interesting stuff in this lawsuit that I think is probably going to get Jimmy fucked. If I had to guess, it's probably gonna get him and Amazon fucked over, probably deservedly so. Obviously, these are allegations, but with so many consistent claims and so many people saying the same thing, and now a class action lawsuit being filed, it's likely that at least some of this is true. So we'll start with the introduction. Plaintiffs bring this action on behalf of themselves in a proposed class consisting of all individuals who are engaged as purported contestants in the Beast Games content production. They censored the location here. I think they're talking about Las Vegas here because that is where the major controversy came from initially with Beast Games, so I believe this would be the Las Vegas shooting for Beast Games. Defendant production companies and Amazon shamelessly exploited the labor of approximately...
That is so insensitive. The Las Vegas shooting of these... Bro, speaking like a Las Vegas shooting didn't happen. My God, Tom, that was dark. Oh.
Number of people here. It was probably, I believe, 2,000 people was the total amount. It is censored here, but I believe 2,000 people was the total amount that was sent to the actual stadium where they filmed. Approximately 2,000 people who served as contestants on the forthcoming 100 million Mr. Beast Amazon production, Beast Games, which Amazon promotes as the world's largest live game show with the largest single prize in the history of television and streaming. The Beast Games entertainment value arises directly from the physical and emotional labor of the contestants who compete under pressure cooker conditions for life-changing prize money, with one person purportedly to win $5 million in the end. Defendant Mr. B 2024 LLC, which is Mr. Beast's company, is a production company believed to be owned in whole or in part, directly or indirectly, by James Jimmy Donaldson, the creator and face of the YouTube-originated Mr. Beast brand. Mr. Donaldson, also known as Mr. Beast, is a 26-year-old content creator who, on information and belief, has the most YouTube subscribers in the world, and is the first YouTube billionaire. The Mr. Beast entertainment empire produces stunt philanthropy, which typically features Mr. Beast performing corporate-sponsored, attention-getting philanthropy for publicity. The business model essentially is that Mr. Beast performs giving away some corporate money, whether pallets of cash, cars, or even houses, to strangers or followers, and his corporate sponsors compensate him with even more corporate money. And that does seem to be true. I mean, realistically, does Mr. Beast give things away? Yes, he does. Is that a good thing? Yes. But ultimately, it's not a totally selfless thing. You know, his company rakes in a ton of cash from these videos, and that's how he's able to continue making more and more videos. So, you know, the idea that it's a totally selfless thing is obviously not accurate. You know, obviously doing charity at all is a good thing, but realistically, it's not like he's doing it for totally altruistic purposes, right? He wants to make money from these videos, and he realized that if you give away a lot of money, and it's a super kind of high stakes, you know, giveaway scenario, people are going to want to watch that, much like with any game show. You know, people like the idea of a bunch of people competing for the promise of getting a large sum of cash. They like to imagine themselves in that scenario, where they could compete to win that much money. But with all the articles, as well as this lawsuit, I would guess that a lot of people are going to have a very different view of taking part in a Mr. Beast production going forward. Defendant Amazon Alternative LLC is the unscripted television division of Amazon Studios, which reportedly was previously run by Mark Burnett at MGM Worldwide Television Group before Amazon Studios acquired the division in the Amazon MGM merger. Amazon creates content for Prime streaming service, which boasts over 200 million paid subscribers. And this was a huge announcement when it came out. You know, a lot of people were excited for the idea that Mr. Beast was going to make a ton of money off of the show. And also because, you know, he's a YouTuber first and foremost. He started on YouTube, and now he's gotten big enough to the point where these massive studios are willing to commit $100 million, which is a ton of money for any TV show.
1 billion, gajillion, fifillion.
But they're willing to commit $100 million to his specific thing and give him full creative control. But as we know from my last video where I went over a Business Insider article, it seems like people at Amazon are now getting cold feet about the fact that he was given full creative control over this project because it's kind of become a disaster. These two commercial giants, Mr. Beast and Amazon, partnered with production company Off One's Base LLC to produce Beast Games, which would be filmed in, and then they have a list of locations. I think what they're talking about here is Las Vegas specifically, if I'm not mistaken, because that is where the majority of these claims came from. In the New York York Times article. It was regarding the treatment of contestants in the stadium that they went to in Las Vegas. Mr. Donaldson, who has publicly represented that all Mr. Beast contestants get paid if they compete for just 5 minutes, gushed to his fans online about the bigger than ever scale of the Amazon-sponsored Beast Games, stating that money was not a constraint and that Amazon had given Mr. Donaldson all creative control and the ability to do whatever he wanted. And this does seem to be the case based on the fact that, you know, if you look at interviews of Jimmy talking about, Jimmy.
Not our Jimmy. Couldn't be precious Jimmy.
If you look at interviews of Jimmy talking about this situation and the fact that he wanted this, you know, money to produce a show, one of the biggest bargaining chips for him was that he wanted full creative control over whatever studio approached him. I believe he talked about how during negotiations, multiple companies actually approached him with a similar deal, but the thing that was really important to him was that he was getting the money and being able to maintain full creative control over the entire thing, which for any artist or content creator is obviously the dream, you know, to not have studio execs breathing down your neck and not have a legal department breathing down your neck of, you can't do that, you can't do this. But it seems like in retrospect, that probably should have been the case because this didn't go very well at all. Unfortunately, the supposedly magnanimous Mr. Beast did not want to use the alleged unconstrained resources to provide fair wages or even bare minimum legal working conditions to the contestants, whose labor comprised the core commercial value of Beast Games. Instead, defendants employed superior bargaining power to coerce the contestants to sign unconscionable contracts with illegal terms and illusory obligations, and also knowingly mischaracterized the contestants to avoid defendants' employment obligations under California law. Defendants knowingly misclassified the contestants, in part, to obtain a tax credit for $2,252,523. Essentially, what they're saying here is that they didn't want to sign these people on as employees or official contractors. Basically, they didn't want to sign them on that way because they wanted a tax credit for not doing so. A $2 million tax credit, by the way, which is, you know, pretty big. Even when stacked against the $100 million, that's pretty big. Defendants then induced, and we have a redacted piece of information here, to serve as contestants on their $100 million production based on a false representation that 1,000 people would be competing to win a $5 million prize, announcing only upon the contestants' arrival that there were more people there, essentially what they're saying here, right? Because he had initially promised we're going to have 1,000 contestants. When people got there, he was like, actually, there's 2,000, which is seemingly not something they were upfront about, which would dilute the amount of money that each person gets individually for even being there. And on top of that, it would dilute the chances that they could win. You know, it's literally a halving of your odds. First, it was 1 in 1,000, then it was 1 in 2,000, which is a big difference. Defendants further relied on the misclassification as a false justification to avoid paying employment taxes and to spare the production the cost of implementing various employment protections required under California law, including minimum wages, overtime, mandatory meal and rest breaks, workers' compensation benefits, itemized wage statements, and timely payment of wages and reimbursements, among other things. Defendants then subjected the contestants to unreasonable, unsafe, and unlawful employment conditions. They redact some information, but I assume this is the date of whenever this happened. Defendants began the Beast Games by, and then they have more redacted information, where the contestants were held under strict control and surveillance for days on end. And then there's a bunch of redacted information, so I'm not really sure what's going on here, but we can try to guess it with further context clues as we keep reading. During the Beast Games engagement, the on-site production staff maintained the strictest control over contestants. And then they, once again, have a bunch of information blacked out, but I think these are probably the names of the people here because, you know, they're going with unnamed contestants, so it is redacted. Denying them all privacy and access to the outside world. The contestants were fed sporadically and sparsely. They were not given adequate access to hygienic products or medical care. The New York Times reported that over a dozen people who took part in the first installment of Beast Games said they had not received adequate food or medical care, and that some competitors had suffered injuries from the physical challenges. And this is an accurate representation of the New York Times article. If you were to go through that again, you would see a lot of people saying a lot of different things. Just to bring up the article here real quick, which I do have, the author writes, one meal described by several contestants included a tiny portion of cold oatmeal, one hard-boiled egg, and a few pieces of raw vegetables. Meals throughout the games were small and sporadic, contestants said. It was difficult to keep track of time without watches or phones, but contestants estimated they had been fed twice a day, once in the early morning and again in the afternoon or evening. Obviously, this is not enough, right? This is not enough food for people, and the food they were being fed was not very good. People with food allergies and dietary restrictions said they had experienced even more trouble. Before the competition, contestants filled out forms detailing their dietary needs. An FAQ document provided to contestants in advance of the event and reviewed by the Times said all dietary and food restrictions would be taken into consideration, but several contestants said they had been served food they were allergic to and that alternatives had not been provided. We were treated horribly, one contestant said. They took on this challenge of 2,000 competitors. They should have known they needed an enormous crew to handle this correctly. And now the lawsuit gets into the treatment of the female contestants in particular, writing, the female contestants particularly and collectively suffered as a result of defendants' actions. The Beast Games work environment systematically fostered a culture of misogyny and sexism, where production staff did nothing, and then we have a bunch of redacted information there. Female contestants were also denied, and then it doesn't say what it is there, but we can infer, based on the New York Times article, that this is in relation to feminine hygiene products. A quote from this article says, one woman said that when she and a group of contestants who were menstruating during the event asked the production staff about getting their underwear more quickly, she had been told that it was not a medical emergency, and she recalled that a nearby member of the production staff had laughed at the woman's pleading. Going back to the lawsuit, we have a few lines that read, female contestants were also denied, and then some removed information, and then it says defendants callously dismissed, and then also some removed information, but I would assume this first line here is talking about the presence of, you know, tampons or something like that, and then for the second line here, as far as callously dismissed, I think this would be in reference to the need for underwear, so it could be kind of flip-flopping both of these. But essentially what they're saying is, you know, women were not given the proper products they need to function on a daily basis. Defendants' violations of California law have caused common injuries, in fact, that are redressable and conducive to a resolution as a class action, where all the following material facts are common to all contestants. Defendants offered the contestants equivalent compensation for equivalent labor. Defendants misclassified the contestants in a uniform manner. Defendants subjected all the contestants contestants to the same material working conditions, including a hostile work environment for the female contestants. Defendants have improperly denied or delayed the contestants' overdue wages, penalties, and or reimbursements. And they then go on to explain that essentially the reason why the plaintiffs here are using pseudonyms and they're not using their real names is because they're aware that, if their names are revealed to the public, obviously a lot of people are going to be talking about them and who their identities are, and they're going to be picking through their personal lives to, try to discredit them or just to get a better picture of who they are. And obviously that can be a very bad thing when you're dealing with a lawsuit. You want to have this lawsuit happen and you want to get a favorable result, and meanwhile you have the public going through all your stuff and potentially causing more pressure on you and causing you to drop out. So we don't know the names of the contestants, and I think that is probably for the best here. Now we're going to skip around a bit to page 10, where the facts section begins, in which they start to make actual allegations of substance about the time on the Beast Games game. It reads, the contestants who were selected and agreed to serve as contestants on the Beast Games 2024 production took part in what at the time appeared to be a thorough application and contestant vetting process. The first step was to submit, and then we have a bunch of redacted information, but I assume this is just information about themselves. Once accepted, the contestants were required to put their lives on hold to provide labor exclusively for defendants in exchange for compensation and a chance to win a $5 million prize on Beast Games. The contestants incurred supposedly reimbursable business-related travel expenses, for which many, including contestant 2 and contestant 3 out of the 5 that are suing here in this class action, have not yet been reimbursed. So essentially, it's like you agree to go to this event, right? You agree to go to this Mr. Beast thing. You're promised a certain amount of money to be there. You're also promised that for the travel costs, you're going to be reimbursed, because obviously, if you don't live in Las Vegas, it's expensive to go there. And even if you do live there, you have to take time off of your job, which means you're going to lose money for that time. And according to this lawsuit, at least, they were promised that they would be compensated for those expenses, and apparently they haven't been. And they then once again reiterate that these contestants were employees under California law, but that the defendants, meaning Mr. Beast and Amazon, intentionally misclassified them to their economic.
Yeah. No, definitely gonna have to switch gears, because I'm feeling something else right now. All right, let's pull up Logic Pro. Yo. Ultimate Guide to Beating the House. Casino Gambling, Table Games, Book 1. Written by Oliver Romanov. Narrated by Eric Pullman. Copyright 2024 by Vocal Spark, LLC. Production copyright by Vocal Spark, LLC. The Ultimate Guide to Beating the House. Casino Gambling, Table Games, Book 1. Written by Oliver Romanov. Narrated by Eric Pullman. Copyright 2024 by Vocal Spark, LLC. Production copyright by Vocal Spark, LLC. All right, 1 second, let me. This has been Baccarat, the ultimate guide. This has been Baccarat, the ultimate guide to beating the house. Casino Gambling, Table Games, Book 1. Written by Oliver Romanov. Narrated by Eric Pullman. Copyright 2024 by Vocal Spark, LLC. Production copyright by Vocal Spark, LLC. The Ultimate Guide to Beating the House. All right. That sounds good. Can you hear me now? What is this playing off of? Oh, maybe it's this. Okay. All right. No, I get it. Teleprompter. Let's see. How far did I make it? Get out of here. How far did I make it with the recording? Follow specific rules based on the current totals of the player and the banker's hands. The simplicity of hand rankings in Baccarat is one of the game's most appealing aspects. Unlike other card games that may require a deep understanding of complex rankings and combinations, all right. So we're going to rename this Chapter 1 and take it from maybe the top, the highest possible score. The objective for each player or bettor is to predict which hand the players or the bankers will have a total closer to 9. Here's how the hand rankings work. Natural 8 or 9. A hand that totals 8 or 9 from the initial 2 card value wins. If both hands have the same value, the round results in a tie. If both hands have the same value, the round results in a tie. Other totals. If neither hand has a natural 8 or 9, the possibility of drawing a third card comes into play. I could do that better. Where'd that go? Oh, man. That would have had me, like, so sad if I had recorded that. If I had recorded and that happened, I would have been, like, really, really sad about it. All right, here we go. That's broadcasting. Okay. So this needs to go up to 10. All right. Check, 1, 2. Other totals. If neither hand has a natural 8 or 9, the possibility of drawing a third card comes into play. The decision to draw a third card follows specific rules based on the current totals of the player and the banker's hands. The simplicity of card rankings. The simplicity of hand rankings. Okay. The simplicity of hand rankings in Baccarat is one of the game's most appealing aspects. Unlike other card games that may require a deep understanding of complex rating. Unlike other card games that may require a deep understanding of complex rankings and combinations, Baccarat bad access. What do you mean bad access? All right, so what happens if I'm in the middle of a... The simplicity of hand rankings in Baccarat is one of the game's most appealing aspects. Unlike other card games that may require a deep understanding of complex rankings and combinations, purely on the numerical value, with 9 being the highest possible score, I don't think it saved any of what I just did at all. See, that would actually be really scary in the middle of recording this. Does it record anything? Yeah, it just crashes after. That's so weird. Can it not access the external hard drive? I mean, it's on there. That's really weird. Settings, audio, recording, general, editing, cycle, catch. Audio recording path. Maybe that just needs to be set. Recordings. Yeah. Then maybe that will work. Can you hear me now? Yeah, wow. This is really unfortunate. It's pretty on par, though. These things usually happen to me, kind of for no reason. Usually when I'm working on a project, something critically will go wrong. And it's just a nature of like you will get exactly what you want in life in the worst possible way. So this laptop is a very, very powerful laptop, but it has 0 storage on it. This iPad is not the most powerful machine possible, but it's got like 5 terabytes. Just came with it. Yeah, it's sad because like it could be so much better. It could really be so much better. Yeah. So I'm sure it's just not working because there's 0 storage. And it just refuses to save on my external hard drive. Can you hear me now? Yeah. So that's weird because it actually saved in the folder, but it won't. Here, I don't know if I just have to restart everything or what. But all right, I'll shut down and restart. I don't know if that'll help, but we'll see.